First things first, Alabama played Clemson last night in basketball, and they won by a score of 90-84. And the score tells, part of the story, but does not tell what this game really was. First things first, Alabama was missing multiple players in this game. Aiden Holloway was announced right before the start of the game that he was going to be missing due to a wrist injury. We knew that Latrell Wrightsell, Keaton Bristow, and Jalil Bethea were all going to be day to day. I had mentioned and over a month ago that I thought that Jalil Bethea was going to come back for this game. He did actually play in this game. We'll talk a little bit about him later. He only played 5 minutes, but he did play in this game. However, Latrell Wrightsell and Keaton Bristow did not play in this game, so that meant Alabama was down four scholarship players with Aiden, Trelly, Keaton, as well as Collins. So they were down four scholarship guys in this game, plus Jalil Bethea, obviously on the minutes restriction. And then Noah Williamson played, but was just ineffective as he has been at multiple times this season. So Alabama really only had about a seven-man rotation in this one due to the injuries and such. I will say the seven-man rotation, you did see a lot out of the freshmen, and I want to talk a lot about those guys because I think that you've seen the freshmen really growing up before your eyes. Namely, Amari Allen is the guy that gets the start. This is his second start of the year. He started the first game of the season with Latrell Wrightsell and those guys that were out. But Amari Allen starts. He gets a double-double with 20 and 11. It adds to it 4 assists, has a block, has some of the most important moments in this game, has a huge rip away steal, slash rebound that was just absolutely incredible. Really was super efficient with the basketball in his hands. Finished, 6 of 9 from inside the arc. Shot just 1 of 4 outside the arc. He's a better shooter than that, but on the season has been a 40% guy. But really, what he gives you at 6'8" is it gives you a guard that's 6'8" can really rebound the basketball. And then when he rebounds the basketball with those 7 defensive rebounds, he can really run in transition, right? We've talked about that kind of all season. Him getting the basketball and being able to move with it is just a huge deal. He had to be another primary ball handler in this game because of the injuries that we just discussed with Aiden and Trelly. So Amari was your backup ball handler behind Labaron Philon. He played 36 minutes in this game. He played a huge amount in this game. He looked great doing it. Again, he's somebody that I think just commands massive minutes, partially due to his ability to handle the basketball, partially due to the tough plays that he gives you, but then also just the rebounding, what he gives you from a rebounding perspective, and his ability to mostly guard 1 through 4 at a minimum, and he can swap onto the 5 and has the physicality to at least handle him for a minute. He really gives you a lot of strength and a lot of size at that guard position. He's awesome on the floor, and I think that he, had one of his best games in an Alabama uniform. His double double definitely one of, you could definitely argue his best game in an Alabama uniform with the double double. The other guys, that I thought that really stepped up when you're talking about the freshmen at least is London Jemison, right? This is his third game in a row scoring double figures. London Jemison has just continued to give you more and more um, on the basketball floor, right? He scores 13 points in this game. He adds 2 rebounds. Not his best rebounding game by any stretch, but he had 2 steals as well. He was a sniper from the corner. He has 3 of 6 from three, and that was really something that I think is the part of his game where he's continually gotten better and better. If I look at his stats, he opened the season 1 of 6 against North Dakota and 0 of 3 against Purdue. And since then, he went 2 of 2 against Gonzaga, 2 of 3 against UNLV, 1 of 3 against Maryland, and then 3 of 6 in this game against Clemson, right? So he's got his 3 point percentage up to 39% on the season after a really slow start. And that's really, do I think that he's going to be a lifetime 40% guy? Maybe not, but I think that he's a high 30s guy. And having a guy like that can really play that defense, that has the body size at that 6'7", 6'8". He doesn't have quite the size on him that a guy like Amari Allen. I know they're listed at the same weight, but I think Amari's got a little bit more physicality to him than London does. But both of those guys, their ability to play the four, their ability to really get physical down low if they need to, just gives us a lot, right? Like I said, I think currently Amari has a little bit more rebounding to his game than London, but I really like what I've seen out of London here recently. He moves great with the ball in his hands. Again, he was a sniper in the corner in this game, and I think that him additionally coming on as a shooter just gives us so much to this offense, right? It really goes to what we talked about all offseason, that you're not putting a guy on the floor that can't shoot the 3-point basket, right? You're not putting a guy on the floor that you are not confident that can make the shot. And that's a huge deal when you're talking about Nate Oates' 5-out offense. When you truly have five guys that can shoot the basketball, it keeps the spacing much more spread out. And then when you have guys like Labaron or guys like Aiden that are willing to back up even a little more, Trelly, that back up even behind that 3-point line to your NBA line or further, that also just helps your spacing and gives guys like Amari Allen or even London Jemison, when they're doing back cuts, gives them the ability to work in space. And I think that helps you so much for this team. The other guy that I feel like you have to mention before we even talk about LeBaron, and LeBaron ties for his career high, just to tell you how great some people played in this game. Aiden Sherrell. Aiden Sherrell had just 5 points, so some people are going to look at this as, why are you pointing out Aiden Sherrell? It's pretty simple. Aiden Sherrell had 5 points. He had 10 rebounds, however, but had 8 blocks. Last season he has just 7 blocks. Or last season he had, I believe it was 7 blocks. Um, and in this game he has 8 blocks. Aiden Sherrill has just continuously, in my opinion, continuously gotten better and better and better at being a rebound. Sorry, at protecting the rim. It's something that game in and game out he has done better and better and better. He's also continuously done better at making sure that he's not fouling. Right, that's something that he struggled with even earlier this season. Um, yeah, 7 blocks last season. And he had 8 in this game. So just absolutely incredible. The fact that Aiden is able to play the amount of minutes that he played in this one, he played 29 minutes. When you look at what Aiden Sherrill has done this season, in the Illinois game, he got 4 fouls and played just 9 minutes. Right? You look at the St. John's game, he has 4 fouls and he plays just 17 minutes. However, in that Gonzaga game, I thought that was probably one of his best games in an Alabama uniform. He did a huge job against Graham Ike, plays 30 minutes, has 14 points, has 4 offensive rebounds. Was a really, really good game for him. The UNLV game, he played 12 minutes, but he got 8 rebounds, right? We didn't need him in that UNLV game, so it makes total sense. Against Payne for Maryland, goes 23 minutes, 9 rebounds, 5 blocks, just absolutely incredible. And the blocks is the other thing, right? Since that Illinois game, and that's the game that you kind of feels like the turning point for him, that Illinois game where he had 4 fouls in just 9 minutes. Since then, he's had 3 blocks, 1 block, 5 blocks, and 8 blocks, right? So you're talking 17 blocks in the last 4 games. He's got 21 blocks on the season. Has really turned into the rim protector that Alabama needs him to be, because Alabama, with the way our defense is played, is going to funnel some of those. We're not doing the same drop coverage that we've done in the past, but we're still funneling a lot of those guys down to your big man down low. And having Aiden Sherrill being able to be that rim protector and eraser just gives you so much more freedom on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that it's really going to help Alabama long term from a defensive perspective. Nate mentioned in the post game press conference that if Aiden, hits his free throws, that he has a double double and is 2 blocks shy of a triple double, right? And that's a great thing, right? Aiden Sherrill is the one guy that unfortunately did not shoot the free throw super well last night. He gets 3 of 8 from the line. It's something that apparently he was working on in the gym even after the game. I'm sure he's super upset by that. A couple of his are, he's kind of notorious on those free throws that they hit the rim a lot, and so he's sometimes, if he gets the shooter's roll, sometimes he'll get them to fall in, like that very first free throw he shot for the game bounced everywhere except the bottom of the net. And unfortunately, when you have a game like that, you're just going to have some poor shooting nights. So I'm sure that's something he's going to work on and try to get fixed, because he is a better shooter than that. You see that from his 3-point percentage and what he's able to do from behind the arc. So he has the shot capable of making his free throws. And I'm sure he's disappointed with a night that's 3 for 8 from the line. And then, of course, your leader in Labaron Philon, right? Labaron Philon scores 29 points in this game. And I think the importance of Labaron Philon scoring these points is, if you didn't watch this game, Alabama jumps out to a 19-point lead in the first 10 minutes of this game. And when you see the start of this game, Alabama starts 11 of 16 from the field. I believe it was 5 of 5 from the three-point line. Alabama just was dominant to start this game. The ball was moving really well, and you knew eventually they were going to come back to the mean, right? You knew they weren't going to stay at that insane pace, but you were really excited to see it. Obviously, missing Aiden Holloway, missing those guys that we mentioned previously. The offense seemed to be flowing decently well. Part of that was because shots were falling, and part of that was just the team was playing really well. I thought the defense was playing really well as well. Then Clemson continuously tries to fight back. It's a 15-point game at halftime. Clemson really punches you in the mouth to start the second half. And then for the later parts of the second half, probably the last 10 minutes of the game, this really was a dogfight to the end. Clemson even takes the lead, and Labaron Philon, clearly was just not going to let Alabama lose in this game. He hit a big three that put us up two, I believe, when they took the lead. He had multiple and ones. If Alabama needed a tough shot, LeBaron Philon went and got it. He was dominant in this game. It was his best free throw shooting performance of the season. He went 8 of 8 from the line, 3 of 7 from behind the arc. 6 of 10 from inside the arc. I think LeBaron Philon was the guy you need him to be. He had 3 assists, which I thought he did a pretty good job distributing the rock. Nate talked about he only had 2 turnovers in this game. One of them, he tried to hit Houston on a back cut, and unfortunately, just got kind of caught up in traffic. The one thing that LeBaron did get into is he got in a little foul trouble, and so because of that, he only played 33 minutes. You did some swapping for him for Davion Hannah, so that he wouldn't foul out of this one, and because of that, it caused him not to be able to play quite the same level of defense. Not that LeBaron is an elite defender, but he definitely has decent on ball pressure, can come up with some steals, can cause some issues on the ball. And when he got the extra fouls, he just wasn't able to play the same level of defense that he's played for large stretches of the season. You don't love to see that. You hope that he can continuously, kind of fix that problem. But at the end of the day, LeBaron Philon did exactly what you needed to win this basketball game. He got you the big shots when you needed them. He really gave the energy to the team, and Alabama, willed themselves to a victory. Like I said, what looked to be a very easy win. Clemson did not give up. Credit to them. It's a really veteran team, really old team that we talked about. But Alabama was able to win this game, at the end. Then the other guys that I think, I haven't mentioned to this point that I want to mention before we talk about Jalil Bethea. Houston Millette, a guy, that I've talked a lot about on this program. He scores 10 points. He goes 3 of 6 from the 3-point line. One of the more timely threes of the game, I thought, was hit by Houston. Also, a huge offensive rebound kick out that allowed a Taylor Bowen three, which was his only assist and was probably the biggest play of the game. Right when Alabama looked to be going down again, Houston gets a big offensive rebound, kicks it out to Taylor. You go up by 3 points, and it really helps you kind of go at arm's length in this game. Taylor, another guy that, Alabama brought him in as a big stretch four that could handle the basketball, that was an elite 3-point shooter, that could like I said, could have the ball in his hands, had great ball skills. He's been that this season. The place where he has not been quite as good as we had expected has been he started the season a little slow shooting the three. I know in the past few games he's been 0 of 3, 1 of 4, 2 of 6. He didn't hasn't been shooting the ball super well. In this game, he goes 3 of 7 from the 3-point line. Really, really good to see that from Taylor. You knew it was going to happen. He shot 41% for the season last year at Florida State. You knew that with our offense and spacing, he was going to get those to continually drop. But, really good to see those out of Taylor. Like I said, a couple of really timely threes out of Taylor, which I thought was great. He did have 5 rebounds in 28 minutes. He had 3 assists. You would love to see him potentially, get a few extra rebounds. We saw what he's capable of in that St. John's game. Would love to continually see him give that effort so that he can, have those type of rebounding games in him. Would love to see him stay in that 5+ per game range from a rebounding perspective. He definitely has this body, and the height to be able to do it. He just has to be physical with the basketball, and understand that at the end of the day, whoever's going for the ball the most physically and the most like I've got to have it. That's who's really generally going to get the basketball. He did get 2 blocks in this game. Obviously, having an additional rim protector is a huge deal. We didn't play him a ton at the small ball 5 today, but or yesterday, I guess. But obviously having him as an additional rim protector, either on backside or when he's playing small ball five, is a really big deal. So very, very excited to see that out of Taylor. He had a solid game. Probably not his best game in Crimson, but he had 11 points. He hit some big threes. Was a very solid game. Very happy with what we saw. Davion Hannah, from an offensive perspective, did not have a ton. He didn't score in this game. He missed his only three. He missed his couple of layups. However, he did have a block in this game. Again, as I mentioned earlier, he came in a good bit for Labaron Philon to help make sure that Labaron wasn't going to foul out. He's been solid on defense. We knew that his defense was much more ahead of his offense coming into this season, and that's continued to be the case. So I think that Davion Hannah has continuously done what you need him to do. He seems super physical and super capable, but was not his best game. It's okay. At the end of the day, you got really, really good games out of both other freshmen, and it ended up being completely fine. And then finally, the guy who we haven't talked about that I think does deserve a little bit of time. Like I said, he only played 6 minutes officially, but I thought that you saw a couple of really good things out of him in this game. Is Jalil Bethea. In 6 minutes, Bethea had 3 rebounds. He had 2 points, and the points were actually off of an offensive rebound. He had 2 assists. When Bethea was in, the ball was moving really well. I thought that he was, moving to get the basketball and was showing the effort that it takes to actually come up with the basketball. So much of rebounding is about effort as much as it is height or physicality or anything else. And I thought that he did a really good job. That's why you see 3 rebounds in 6 minutes. I think that that was intentional. That offensive rebound was like just being in the right place at the right time and knowing what's going to happen. I thought that Bethea was really good getting the basketball. And if you can, as he continuously comes back, I think that you're going to see him a lot more in this UTSA game. And we'll talk about it next before we move on to football in Georgia. But I thought that Bethea had did a really good job. I think that in this UTSA game, you're going to be able to see a lot more of him because I do suspect that Alabama's going to get out to a fairly significant lead. And if Bethea is able to play a lot more, I think he's going to be able to show you a little bit more what he has. He clearly is a guy who has the talent, and I think that you started to see that if he continue with that level of intensity from a rebounding standpoint, he can give you something where it's like, hey, this guy's not just an elite offensive weapon, but he can really be a rebounder and other things for your team, which allows you to play him more and more. So really, really excited with what I saw out of Jalil Bethea. Obviously only 6 minutes of play, but think that there's some things that you can definitely take away from what you saw on the court with him this last game.